All right, party people, we're gonna try and set up a flow in make.com so that you can select leads in kind of any format on any web page and send them into this spreadsheet right here. And we're gonna kind of do it from scratch a little bit. I've got some templates that we can just load up to make it a lot faster. But this video might be a little less polished because I don't know what's going to happen. So let's try this out and see. Okay, so the first thing is I've got my lead tracker spreadsheet here. There'll be a link to this in the blog post, and we'll put it in the video description as well, so you can just make a copy of this. But you can see it's pretty basic. It can be named anything you want, and then I've got these columns in it: name, role, company, LinkedIn, and the URL is the URL where we captured the lead from. Now I need to set up things in make.com and in Ask Steve. So first, let's do Ask Steve. So I'm going to open up the panel to get to the options menu here. I could also just right mouse click on that little icon up there and go to options either way, but I'll go to options, and where I'm trying to go to is import export. And then once I'm on import export, I want to import a file. This will also be attached to the blog post and to the video. And I want to import the file called the Ask Steve skill here, add a lead to a sheet in make.com. So let me open that up. Okay, now that skill's been added, we can go take a look at it. It's the very first one on my list right now. Add lead to Google Sheet, make.com. So when you're calling an API, basically anything that's not a variable is effectively ignored when the API is called. So I've only got two things I'm sending in here. One, the double brackets indicates a page variable. That means whatever I have highlighted on the page, or if I don't have anything highlighted on the page, the whole page will get sent in, and that'll get sent in as the leads argument to the API. And then I'm also sending in single brackets here with the underscore. It's a system variable. In this case, it's the URL, because I want to be able to capture the URL of the current page so that I can track what page I actually got that lead from. And then all the rest of the stuff right here is just kind of description about how to use this thing. But all that's basically ignored for API calls, because we're not calling an LLM. We're just calling an API with these arguments. So leads and URL, underscore URL, are what are going to get sent. And then the important thing here now to configure this for our own use is under advanced options, we go to plus, and we see that it's calling an API webhook instead of a large language model. And then I'm going to have to put in the URL for my version of make.com of my flow once I get it ready. So right now this isn't going to do anything because it's just pointing to something that doesn't really exist. But we can see that this is already pinned to the top of the right click menu. So if I right mouse click and say Ask Steve to, we can see that add lead to Google Sheets, make.com is there at the top of the menu. Okay, so this part is mostly set up. That was pretty easy. Now let's go into make.com. So here I have got my make.com account, and I don't have any flows right now. So I'm going to go into create a new scenario. I'm on the organization tab, create a new scenario, and it creates a new scenario. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this three-dot menu right here for more, and I'm going to say import blueprint. And then also linked in blog post and video will be a blueprint file, the make blueprint, and let's upload that, hit save. Okay, so this will save us some time here because I've already built out the flow. Now we just need to configure the various elements. So the very first one is the webhook. This is that URL that Ask Steve is going to need to call. So let me double click on this, and I don't have a webhook yet, so I'm going to say create a webhook. Doesn't matter what the name is, we'll just call it like the Ask Steve webhook, but actually it's going to be the Ask Steve make a lead webhook, because you might have multiple webhooks. So let's call it make a lead in Sheets webhook, and I'm going to leave everything else as is and hit save. Okay, oops. And now I have the URL for that here, so I can say copy address to clipboard, and I can go back to that skill here in Ask Steve, and go back down to advanced options, and right here now I can paste that in. Okay, good. Now I'm all set on the Ask Steve side. I've done everything I need to do in order to call this make.com webhook. So I can close that up. And right now what it's doing is just listening for a test call that will help us kind of debug the rest of this flow. So let's go to a page that has some people that I might want to capture as leads. Let me select some, right mouse click and say Ask Steve to add to my Google Sheet, make.com. And what that does is it says there's an error because this test should not have returned anything. Yes, so we can see here we came back and it says successfully determined that means that it got the call, but it didn't actually do the whole flow because it's not ready to do the whole flow yet. So that's why it returned an error in ASCII, but that's good. We got solve successfully determined here, so that means we're okay. Then if we look at the next node here, it's an OpenAI node, and so the flow didn't go any farther because this isn't working yet. So I need to go create a connection, and under connection name, my OpenAI connection is good. Now I need to put in an API key. And if you need to get an OpenAI developer account to get an API key. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my settings at platform.openai.com, and I'm going to create a new secret key, and I'm going to call this my make.com demo key because I'm going to use it now, and then delete it. I say create secret key. There it is. I hit copy and then done. And then I come back into here and I paste in that API key. I can leave organization ID alone and hit save. And now it's testing that connection and good. Okay, it's connected. Now the rest of this is all configured already because I set it up already. So it's going to use GPT-4o Mini, and it's going to send a chat message. And this is the message it's going to send. It's going to say, hey, convert this text in whatever I'm sending in into an array of one or more people objects that should all have this format, and give me name, role, company, and LinkedIn, and the URL out of it. And then you can see some of the variables that I'm pulling in from the webhook that got called so that it can be used. Everything else here, we can see max token 0. I set the temperature to 0. We don't want any kind of hallucinations or anything. And everything else, I think I left the same. Okay, so let's just hit okay. So that node is ready to go. The router just splits this into 2 forks because we want to respond to the user really quickly, and we don't really need to send any data back except for a link to our Google Sheet. So we'll change, and so we split into 2 forks, and we return right away something to the user, and then we keep processing and write to the Google Sheet. So here we see basically just what gets sent back is a message that says added leads, and then has a link to the Google Sheet here. And so, and I think that's already the link to our Google Sheet. Let's take a look. It looks like, well, here, we'll just copy it and make sure it is. Okay, so we'll go here and we'll paste that in. And this is just using Markdown right now. So that means you put the text that you want to show in square brackets, and then in the round brackets, you put the URL. Okay, so hit OK. So that part's good. This node right here basically takes the text output from OpenAI and turns it into a JavaScript object that we can then iterate over. And so, because you might have selected 4 people or 2 people or 100 people, who knows? And so it needs to be able to turn each one of those into an object that it can then add a row to the Google Sheet. And then it iterates over those. And then now we need to set up our Google Sheet. So I need to create a connection, and we can leave it called My Google Connection. And then I need to sign in with Google. So I'm signing in with Google, doing kind of standard Google sign in here. And I'm going to allow Make to see my files and my sheets. Okay. Okay, connection is created. Now I need to find that file. And so it's going to, let's see, I need to find the Google Sheet. And so I changed the name here to leadtrackermake.com. So I just click on that. And so now I pick the actual sheet, and it's going to go into sheet 1, which I think is, yeah, it's just sheet 1 is where we have all our stuff. The table contains headers. Yes, that makes it really easy for this thing to figure out where to put stuff. And then basically it's grabbing all those variables that came out of that JSON node. So I can click here and I can see it's pulling name, role, company, LinkedIn, etc. Those aren't populated here yet. They won't be until I actually run that node. And then it writes all these things into these various columns. And so that's it. And then I do want formatting because I want like URLs in the columns to actually be linked and stuff. So I'll click OK there. So now we should be mostly okay to run. Let's give this thing a try. So I'm going to hit the Run Once button right here to give this thing a test. And it looks like it's ready to go right now. And then let me go to this speakers page, close, and let's run this again. Ask Steve to add lead to my Google Sheet. And now it looks like it's running. And then, all right, it said added leads, and I've got a link to my sheet, and I go click, and there are my leads with the name, the role, the company, a LinkedIn search link that was constructed that should take me to that person pretty quickly if I want to. Here, I'll go like, check this one out. Oop, no, it didn't work. Charles Link, oh, he's not in LinkedIn. But if we go look at somebody who is on LinkedIn, like Carrie Ann Brisky, then we can find them really quickly. And then the URL where they were captured. So I can go similarly, and I can go capture myself here and say add to my lead tracker. Oh, that doesn't work because I said only run once. And so it's not actually listening. So let's go back here. And now instead of run once, let's just turn this on. So I just tried to flip this switch right here, the on off switch. It says the newly activated scenario process only new data. That's fine. Delete any old data. Yes, delete all the old data from the queue. Okay, now this is active and running. So now I should just be able to use it over and over again. So let's go back here, say ask Steve to add to my Google Sheet. And okay, it's running. Let's go look at the sheet. Yep, I've been added. Let's go just make sure it continues to run. Let me go add somebody else. Let's go add Ruchi here. Let's pick her. Say ask Steve to add to my Google Sheet. And she's been added. Okay, so now I'm up and running. So basically I have everything working. So what I just had to do is I had to import the skill into Ask Steve, which we can see here. And I had to change the URL here to be whatever make.com gave me. And that was it for on the Ask Steve side. And then I had to import the blueprint into Make and then just configure everything. So go into the webhook and set it up, put in my OpenAI account, and make sure that the webhook gave me a link back to my actual sheet. And that's easy to edit, just like right in there. You can put any other text you wanted to. So like, I want to make it like say, hey, put an exclamation point, link to your sheet. Okay, now that's changed as well. And then connect my Google account and pick the right sheet that I wanted. And then, which should be a copy of that template sheet. And then everything gets written into there. Oh yeah, so here we can hit refresh and that'll pull all the headers in. So now we see URL, LinkedIn, company, etc. And that's it. So not too bad. Give it a try. If you have any questions, let us know. Either ping me or write us a note in the support community. All right. Thanks. Bye.